Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Progressive Action TV show. How you guys doing out there today? Didn't go live in a couple of days. Still not 100%. Still trying to get better out here. But how are you guys doing? We're gonna jump straight into it. As you guys know, please share out the show. Share it to a group, share it to your personal page. The more people who know of our issues helps us, and it also helps them. So make sure that you guys share out the page, the video, and all that stuff. But let's jump straight into this video by Business Insider. It was a great video. I want you guys to check it out.
Excuse me, sir. Yo, you got a mask?
I don't have a mask.
Then you cannot use the bus if you don't have a mask.
I can't go like this?
No. Thank you.
Transit workers at the epicenter of the coronavirus pandemic in the US, like Roberto Martinez, are frustrated and scared.
The transit workers have suffered the most casualties. Why? Because we're in contact with more people on a daily basis.
We spoke with nearly a dozen MTA workers, half of whom agreed to go on camera. They say New York City's Transportation Authority didn't do enough to safeguard them from the effects of the virus ravaging their city.
They dropped the ball.
Passengers are not wearing protective gear, masks, or gloves or anything like that. Nobody really out there to protect us.
New York's MTA is the largest transit network in the United States, with more than 74,000 employees. It's continued operating through the city's lockdown, getting essential workers where they need to go. But MTA employees have watched the virus tear through their ranks. So far, around 2,000 have tested positive and almost 100 have died. That's more than lives lost in the fire and police departments combined. The agency says it acted aggressively to face the worst public health crisis the city has ever seen. But many of the people who keep public transportation running say they feel expendable. Roberto Martinez has been driving through New York for almost 16 years.
I pick up a lot of working class people. I pick up hospital workers because I pass Coney on a hospital. When you're doing the same route over and over, you establish relationships with a lot of people.
Around mid-March, Roberto's schedule was upended when colleagues around him began falling ill to COVID-19. He says reality set in later that month when his co-workers started dying. At that time, there were fewer than 10 deaths and almost 3,000 confirmed cases in the city.
When it really hit home was when, like I told you earlier, 2 operators in my depot succumbed to this COVID-19 coronavirus. It was Ernesto Hernandez and Miguel Chupita. And Ernesto passed away on a Sunday, and I saw him that Tuesday. And we always greet each other with a big handshake or a big hug. And when that Tuesday we crossed one another, we gave each other the elbow.
Roberto's colleague Ernesto Hernandez died in late March, just over a week after New York City shut down most businesses and Governor Andrew Cuomo ordered people to stay home. Roberto says that by then, he and his colleagues had been feeling afraid to go to work for several weeks. They called the MTA's response to the pandemic slow, confusing, and misguided, considering the World Health Organization had declared the virus a pandemic on March 11th. Some transit workers told us that they weren't given enough personal protective equipment early on, and that not all buses and subway cars were following a 72-hour disinfection schedule. On March 26th, the MTA launched its Essential Service Plan to reduce train and bus services and respond to plummeting ridership. But the plan didn't adequately account for crowding at certain stops, often in working-class neighborhoods. And crowding got worse when thousands of operators had to self-quarantine, causing extensive delays. Packed trains and buses made protective gear even more important, But some operators complain that masks and other items were not distributed at all for several weeks. That's despite a long-standing plan that was supposed to make sure the MTA was ready for something like this. Back in 2012, the MTA released a pandemic plan that ensured a stockpile of personal protective equipment, including masks, gloves, and hand sanitizer, lasting 6 weeks. The MTA told us the plan did not account for a highly contagious virus like this one. Still, the agency said the supply of protective gear was not the problem back in early March.
We have a considerable inventory of masks out there, and that's not the issue for this particular virus. What the healthcare professionals are saying, that masks are not recommended and in some cases can be deleterious to your health. So that's the reason we're not issuing masks.
Indeed, a few weeks earlier, the U.S. Surgeon General had told the public to stop buying masks, saying that they didn't prevent the general public from exposure. At the time, some MTA workers who tried to wear their own masks to protect themselves say they were told not to by superiors.
They said, well, if you decided you want to wear personal protective equipment without a plan being in place per the governor of New York State, then you might be violating uniform policies and you could be questioned or addressed about it and maybe disciplined for it.
The MTA told us no employees were ever disciplined for wearing protective equipment, but did not respond to whether workers were ever threatened with disciplinary action. By the beginning of April, the MTA says it distributed tens of thousands of masks. That was about 2 weeks before the governor ordered all New Yorkers to wear masks in public. But for some, it was too late. We received an internal list created by MTA employees noting that about 10 transit workers had already died of COVID-19 by then. While employees were given access to protective gear, Roberto and others say supplies were limited.
I got my bus, and they gave me a paper bag. And inside that bag has one mask, one pair of gloves, and a hand sanitizer. Those 3 items are supposed to last 5 days.
Some locations received masks, most did not. When I came to work, there were no masks. I just happened to have my own. They ran out of gloves. They ran out of hand sanitizer.
The MTA did not respond in time to whether there were any limits to PPE supplies. Still, some employees say they took matters into their own hands. Many bus operators say they began cordoning off their buses with yellow tape to make sure passengers didn't come in through the front door. Some operators even began bringing in their own spray bottles of bleach and water. But even after new steps like prioritized testing for employees and daily temperature checks were announced in mid-April, problems persisted. Under the 72-hour disinfection policy, cleaners leave notes on when buses have been disinfected, but employees don't have access to official disinfection schedules.
Today is Wednesday, April 22nd. It's approximately 5:02 p.m. I'm on bus 235, and the sticker over here indicates that the bus was cleaned on April 18th, which means they're not following the protocol cleaning these buses every 72 hours.
It's especially concerning given the coronavirus can live on steel surfaces like a bus or a subway pole for up to 3 days. Nasser, a bus driver with the MTA for 9 years, says he tested positive for COVID-19 after working on multiple buses in one shift.
The last day that I was at work, I was shifting, or they call it drill tricking, which means that you work inside the depot and you move buses around. I'm maybe doing 4 buses an hour, and I'm doing that for 8 hours. And you can't just like Lysol and spray down a bus every time you jump on it. So I decided, you know what, let me go to the doctor, let me get tested. Sure enough, I tested positive. Could this be it? Am I going to be the one to fight this, or I'm going to be the one to succumb to this?
What would the MTA needed to have done to possibly prevent you from even getting sick doing a shift like that?
I think the protocols for the scrubbing the buses or to decontaminating or disinfecting the buses is not being adhered to strictly.
Nasser has since recovered and is back on the job. The MTA said that all buses adhered to a 72-hour cleaning schedule. Since then, Governor Andrew Cuomo announced all buses and subway cars will be disinfected nightly.
I challenged the MTA to come up with a plan. They came up with a plan. They can disinfect all trains and buses every night. It can best be done by stopping train service from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. every night.
It's an unprecedented endeavor for the MTA, one that will require workers to clean thousands of cars and buses daily. But the agency was still down more than 4,000 employees as of April 20th, following a self-quarantine policy that asked workers to stay home for 14 days if they test positive or come into contact with someone else who has. Meanwhile, buses and trains are still crowded.
You have more people because you have less buses.
Ridership has dropped to never-seen-before levels, more than 90% across all modes of transportation. The agency stands to lose up to $8.5 billion by the end of the year. Meanwhile, it lost money for eliminating bus fares and spent over $300 million on disinfection measures alone. Most buses now have vinyl shield barriers and backdoor boarding. The MTA says it is trying its best to mitigate crowded areas. And to understand the challenges faced by the MTA, it's important to note that the pandemic has overwhelmed public transit agencies across the country. Bus drivers have died from the coronavirus in Boston, Chicago, Detroit, Seattle, Newark, and many other cities. But each life lost hits hard.
A guy who I ran with on my slate, his name is Daryl Sweeney. Nicest guy you can possibly meet. Excuse me, I'm sorry. He passed away. I consider he was a friend of mine. I didn't even know he was sick.
The MTA recently announced a $500,000 benefit.
Shout out to everyone involved with that story on Business Insider. Shout out to Kimberly Nuke McLaurin, team member of mine. Shout out to Roberto Martinez, excellent in that video, team member of mine. Shout out to Nas. You guys did great. If you guys want to see more of that video, we will put it online. It's a lot more to that video. I think it's like 13, 15 minutes long. You guys need to check that out. I want to give a special shout out to the bus operators, the private line bus operators in Yonkers and Westchester. Them guys are going through the same thing that we're going through here in New York City Transit. And their issues is not being addressed. And we all part of the same union. We need to pay attention to what's going on over there. Also, you know, the union love to say stronger together. We need to start acting like we're stronger together. Shout out to my brothers Johnny and shout out to my brother Dean. Definitely shout out to you guys, man. I see you guys working up there, making sure the members is right and all this other stuff. So yeah, what you guys think of the video we just played? You know, I'm happy that workers are starting to come forward and tell our story. Our stories are no longer being told by the union or the MTA. If workers didn't have the courage to come forward and speak during these times, none of our issues will be on display. Nobody will be doing interviews with us. We seem to be a hot topic now in New York City Transit, and we got to keep up that momentum. So shout out to everyone who has participated in the media interview, has referred someone for a media interview. We need more of you guys moving forward. As you guys know, like I do every show. If you want to donate, you could donate via, this is Cash App, Progressive Action 100. You could donate via PayPal. Matter of fact, let me put that on the screen. You could donate, like I said, via Cash App. You could donate via PayPal. You know, donations is needed. None of this stuff is free. This stuff have a monthly expense, and every dollar counts. And if you want to donate monthly, we have something called Patreon, and the link is in the comments. You can actually click the link and sign up there. Shout out to everyone who donates via Patreon. Let's get into some news. Now, as we know, with all of this changes coming forth with transit workers, now they're going to be shutting down the system. So it seems as if they're getting people off of the subways, and it seems like they're going to be going on to the buses. And this happened today. There was a man in custody after 2 stabbed on bus in Manhattan. As you know, in New York City, when the weather gets hot, people tend to act a fool. And then now, you know, we got this pandemic going on. It's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of anger. It's a lot of uncertainty. And, you know, people are going to act up. You know, it's hard to console one another, you know, during death because of all these stipulations in place with social distancing, masks, can't have more than 10 people at a funeral home. So there's a lot of distraught people out here. There's no excuse for the violence, though. But my worry is for the bus operators. The bus operators are targets anyway. They don't have no compartment where they could fully protect themselves. They out in the open, even though they have half of the bus cut off so no one could get next to them. That's only cut off by plastic and imaginary barriers. If someone want to get to the bus operator, they can. If something violence was to spill onto the bus, there's nothing to protect that bus operator. So we must remain vigilant at our workplaces, whether you're a bus operator, train operator, conductor, cleaner, station agent. We must remain vigilant. We're not dealing with the same type of New Yorker that we normally deal with. And there's situations going on that we must pay attention to. Also, what's going on in the news is, this is important. There's a new viral strain of COVID-19. At least that's what the LA Times is saying. Says that scientists say a dominant strain of the coronavirus appears to be more contagious than the original. Now, what does that mean? If they make a vaccine, what strain of virus will this vaccine be for? Will they spend all this time creating a vaccine that may not protect us 12 to 18 months from now? That's something to think about. With this new dominant strain, can you get affected twice by this coronavirus? You know, there's a lot of speculation that says that you will create antibodies if you have the virus. So if you create antibodies regarding this virus, will it protect you from this new dominant strain? This is something to pay attention to. I don't even know what to say as far as, you know, going to work or how to protect yourselves. You know, this thing is airborne. I believe that we all need to stay home until they figure this thing out or get this thing completely up under control. Something needs to be done. But I'm just letting you guys know that there's a new, a now dominant strain of the coronavirus. So we must remain vigilant with that and get that information out there. Now, with this new strain of virus, the MTA is attempting to increase bus service, which they have done. They're increasing bus service, and they also is increasing subway service. Now, with the increase in the service means that more crews, more people in crew rooms, less opportunities to social distance at work. Not every terminal can have a train sitting there. I don't know what the terminology they use for the train, but not every terminal can have that. There's not that bus, whatever they call a bus that they keep upstairs to help you social distance. And the bus is unsafe too. We're going to talk about that. But with the opening up of the system, this is at Flatbush. This is at 148th Street Lenox Terminal 3 line today. And a member had posted it. And I'm going to read to you what he said. He said, okay, so they want to provide regular service now, but not consider it's impossible to maintain social distancing in crew rooms. Very true. Can't have an office train if both pockets are utilized. Very true. There are still minimal people boarding the trains at that. So why run full service and put us in jeopardy on top of each other, knowing that some were quarantined and even had positive test results? Very true. City is still on shutdown. So why are we running empty trains? You hearing it from the workers themselves. The only thing that the MTA care about is service over safety. That is it. And I noticed that Mr. Lewis said they bringing people back to work that had positive test results. And we're going to get into that. If you notice, I named this video how much Governor Cuomo, MTA Chief Pat Foye, and Sarah Feinberg feel that workers' lives are worth. And I'm going to play a clip from Cuomo later on in the show discussing that. And I think that you guys need to pay close attention regarding that. Let's see. It's sad. It's sad that they have us working like this, but hey, what can we do? Yesterday there was an MTA press conference, if you want to call it that. And the MTA was basically asking the media questions. The media was asking the MTA questions regarding this new close down of the system, the first of its kind. But, I feel that the media don't really know of our issues to really ask the questions that need to be asked. And they asking more from a passenger point of view instead of from an employee point of view that could actually trip the MTA up, and the MTA know this. So I will be interested to help the journalists ask the questions that need to be asked, because they seem to be getting over on you guys as far as questioning. A few of you guys did very well. Not all of you guys are in the dark, because you guys do have relationships with us, workers, but the MTA get away with a lot as far as questioning is concerned, and they not answering these questions like they should, and they could be tripped up more. And I'm going to go through a few of the videos from yesterday that the members and the public need to pay attention to. This is not only for the workers. Don't get it twisted. This is for the riding public. You want to know why? Because you guys take the system. You guys are also getting sick in the system. So it's important to know that when us workers fight for worker safety, we are also fighting for passenger safety. It's important that you guys know that. So let's get into this first video, Sarah Feinberg, and let's discuss what she's talking about. Let's get into that real quick.
At night, in movement at night, will receive cleaning that is identical to the yard cleaning above, except at terminal stations. While we're still learning more about this virus every day, we do know that it can live on surfaces for extended periods of time. To minimize the risk to our customers as much as possible, we're looking at innovative solutions for this cleaning program, including UV, antimicrobials, and electrostatic disinfectants. Currently, 3 antimicrobial biostats are being applied to the interior of MTA rolling stock and in control rooms and crew quarters after surfaces are cleaned with an EPA-registered disinfectant. They provide a protective barrier to help prevent germs from growing. If proven successful, we will expand their use system-wide. Next week, we will begin.
If proven successful, we will use this system. We will use this stuff system-wide. I'm curious, what are they measuring their success on? What considers success? Would success be, well, before we started using this product, 15 workers died during a 7-day period. Since we started using this product, only 8 workers have died. What are they measuring this success on? That's something to think about. Are they looking at the deaths of our coworkers, as to how successful these cleaning practices are? I think that it's kind of crazy for them to use us as guinea pigs. The question that needed to be asked during this press conference is, what are they measuring their success on? I think that was very important. Let's get into the next video. We're going to run through these videos. But it's important that you guys see and know what's going on and pay attention to the politics that's applied by the MTA and what they really think, because they say what they really think in code. You just got to decipher it. But it's plain as day once you know the code. So let's get into I think he's the bus president, Craig Cipriano. Let's get into what he said. It's very important as to what he said also.
Overnight. We have also enhanced service to some local routes already operating. Let me give you some examples. The M15 servicing the East Side Manhattan hospitals, where frequency will be improved from 30 minutes to 15 minutes. The BX15 serving St. Barnabas Hospital, where frequency will go from 60 minutes to 15 minutes. The B44 serving Kings County Hospital, where frequency will be improved from 60 to 50 minutes. And let me give you one example on the express side. The BX-M11 connecting those in the northern Bronx to Manhattan. This route parallels the White Plains Road number 2 line between 241st Street and Pelham Parkway and provides service to several medical destinations on Manhattan's Upper East Side. It's important to note, and I stress, that this robust bus service plan has been developed based upon data, ridership, and in consultation with leaders in healthcare, government, food service, and construction.
Did you guys hear that? He said for the St. Barnabas Hospital in the Bronx, bus service will go from 60 minutes to 15 minutes. 15. For Kings County Hospital in Brooklyn, one of the biggest hospitals in Brooklyn, a trauma unit. Anything serious, anything serious happened to you and they could take you to Kings County, you're going to Kings County. The level of service from Kings County, as far as the nighttime during these closures, is from 60 minutes to 50 minutes, a 10-minute difference. Why is that? Why would a hospital, one of the biggest hospitals in Brooklyn, a trauma unit, smack almost in the middle of Brooklyn, serve mostly people of color, have 60-minute to 50-minute wait time for buses when other hospitals outside of black communities have a 60-minute to 15-minute wait time? This is something for you guys to think about. I'm tired of saying it. It's plain as day. The black communities get less service to the hospitals for the essential workers, but the other communities get more frequent service during the shutdown. This is something for you guys to think about. Let's get into the next video. For Pat Foye, talking about testing of these cleaning products. This is something to pay attention to.
Dana Politico reported over the weekend that the MTA is testing a chemical that may be able to kill the coronavirus from surfaces up to 3 months. I'm wondering if you could confirm this, explain the name of the chemical, what the chemical could possibly do, why you're testing it, and also Politico Dana reported that you are swabbing surfaces and sending samples to a lab to confirm whether the virus continues to live on those surfaces. So if you could just sort of walk through that in detail, I would appreciate it.
David, a number of questions in there. First, we are testing multiple products from multiple companies. They claim, and we are in the process of verifying with federal regulators and with laboratories, that their products will eradicate the virus, including COVID-19, for an extended period of time, 30, 60, 90 days. That would be great news for all New Yorkers, frankly, for all Americans, and for all our customers. So it's multiple products from multiple vendors. We're also exploring ultraviolet light. We have done pilots with respect to the antimicrobials as well as with respect to ultraviolet. Ultraviolet is a tested, proven technology that has extensive application in hospital and emergency room uses, although unlike the other products, it does not eradicate viruses after its application. Lastly, I will say we're aggressively we are testing and piloting these things on an aggressive time frame, and we'll be reporting to the board and the public and the media as to our progress.
So let's get this clear. He said he's going to be testing cleaning products in different methods, including ultraviolet, which doesn't give protection to viruses once it's applied. The other methods he was talking about using provide protection 30, 60, 90 days after its application. But once again, what is going to be the determining factor of these cleaning agents? Are they going by employee deaths? 15 people died this week, only 8 died this week, so this is good. We're doing the right thing. How are they measuring these things? Are they going to randomly swab train poles and stanchions or whatever the case is, seats, to see if the virus is on these seats or whatever the case is? What are they really going to do to measure these things? Now, Foye also said that companies claim that their product will eradicate the virus for 30, 60, 90 days. Like I said, that's only for surfaces. It has been proven that this virus is airborne and can travel through the air vent system, right? How does these chemical processes of cleaning the trains address the airborne virus that's circulating through the ventilation system? Everyone knows that buses are like a test tube full of viruses. It recirculates the air inside the bus. So if somebody coughs in the back of the bus, it's very possible that the virus could affect the bus operator because he got vents where he or she is driving at. The same thing goes for train operators and conductors. Somebody can cough in the train, in your car, and through the ventilation system, you will get affected because the air that blows inside the cab is the same air that's where the passengers are at. So that's why if you have a homeless person in your car, you would smell them through the vent system because they smell travel through the vent. So if the smell traveled through the vent, you could just imagine what a virus does. And he uses the word claim. Pat Foye uses the word claim just for scapegoat purposes. So if something go wrong or is proven down the line that these agents weren't working as they said they were or claimed to be, they could continue to pass the buck and say, hey, this is what they claim that it did, and we bear no responsibility. This is what the TA has done during this whole pandemic, was point fingers instead of accept what they have done, which is it's the MTA way. That's just how they do things. Let's get into the next video. We only have matter of fact, we got like 2 more videos, but the next 2 videos is going to be very good. I need you guys to pay attention. But let's get into this video because a lot of people been asking about this situation right here. So I want you guys to check it out.
Thank you, Tim. I actually have 2 questions if you don't mind. The first is for Pat and the second is for Sarah. Pat, first of all, one of the greatest things about the subway system is that it's a round-the-clock system, and it's one of the only ones of its kind in the world. There are those who would say it would benefit from not being around the clock because of all the capital needs. Are you unequivocally saying now that when this is over, whenever that is, it will return to a 24-hour system?
Look, our press release was clear, and the governor was clear on Thursday that this is a cessation of service during the pendency of the pandemic.
Did you guys hear what he said? A reporter basically in plain as day asked him, will the system return back to normal once the pandemic ends? The only thing Pat Foye needed to say was yes or no. Did you guys see how he beat around the bush when asked, is the system going to return to a 24-hour system once the pandemic is done? We must pay close attention to this because it's almost quite clear that we probably won't go back to regular service during those times. I think that if the MTA see that this saves them money, is beneficial to them in any kind of way, they're going to keep this up. We may be in the final days of ever seeing 24-hour service again. We may have seen the last time that this happened. I don't understand why Pat Foye didn't just say, yes, we going back to 24-hour service. He beat around the bush. It was all BS. And we already know how conniving and untrustworthy upper executive management can be. They have been very untrustworthy during this whole pandemic, this entire pandemic. They have been untrustworthy. Now, this next video is actually the title of this show. How much are workers' lives worth during this pandemic? And with this next video I'm about to play from Cuomo press conference that he did today, he brought up the topic, which I was very surprised. And, oh, hold on. At this time, if you haven't done so already, can you please share out the video? I want to give you guys 1 minute to share out the video. This is where it gets important because, once again, it's not important only for the workers. This is also important for the riding public. Actually, in this video, he talks more of a broad interpretation of how much our lives worth. And he's talking more of, well, he didn't identify anyone, but if you read between the lines, we know what he's talking about. So I'm going to give you guys a minute to share out this video before I start back. This is very important. Please share out the video. Like I said, if we don't educate the public on our issues, then we are in trouble. And the public must understand that our issues affect them also. We have been fighting for cleaner trains way before this pandemic because we seen how the MTA clean these trains and the passengers don't know, and how much urine, vomit, blood they have came in contact with. I have seen it with my own eyes. This is why my son will probably never ride the subway system without being under my direct supervision. All right. So let's get into this next video of Cuomo bringing up the topic, how much is human life worth during this pandemic? Let's get into it.
A question that is being debated right under the surface, and the decisions we make on reopening are really profound decisions. And the fundamental question, which we're not articulating, is how much is a human life worth? How much do we think a human life is worth? There's a cost of staying closed, no doubt. Economic cost, personal cost. There's also a cost of reopening quickly. Either option has a cost. You stay closed, there's a cost. You reopen quickly, and there's a cost. The faster we reopen, the lower the economic cost, but the higher the human cost, because the more lives lost. That, my friends, is the decision we are really making. What is that balance? What is that trade-off? Because it is very real. If you now look at the projection models of how many lives will be lost, you'll notice they changed recently. Why did they change? And they went up dramatically. Why? Because now they're factoring in the reopening plans and the reopening schedules
Did you guys hear that? Did you guys hear what Cuomo said? Human life, how much is it worth? According to Cuomo. So basically, they was weighing two options. Human life versus capitalism. Economic costs, personal costs versus human life. And if you know of the issues and you read in between the lines, he actually weighed that same option with us MTA workers. And one of the options that they came up with when you're dealing with capitalism versus human life is that the $500,000 death benefit for transit workers. They figured that it make more sense economically for us to come to work and die and give our family $500,000 versus keeping us home and keeping everyone safe without the system moving. Because you will have people say, and I may have said it myself, that we got to keep the system running because we have to take essential workers or frontline workers to their job. How are they going to get to work and things of that nature? Why can't the essential workers, first responders, frontline workers, emergency responders, why can't they stay in hotels close, walking distance where they work at? Or maybe a few blocks where they work at. Why can't they do that? It's because of capitalism. You got hotel owners who are still trying to make a dollar in this pandemic. And they put the dollar over human life. The MTA could have shut down the system a long time ago, the entire system. Why does the system need to run? Why can't rideshare companies move people to and from work? It's because the rideshare company owners, the stockholders, Wall Street, is still trying to make money in this pandemic, which is crazy, right? So when Cuomo say how much is a human life worth, he's actually once again comparing it to capitalism. And the bottom line is why Cuomo, Foye, Feinberg, Samuelson, and Utano, not why, but they did come up to a conclusion that capitalism is way more important than workers' lives because they have used the same format for workers. And make no mistake about it, look at Cuomo, look at Foye, look at Feinberg, look at Samuelson, look at Utano, and then look at the data from the people who was losing their lives, right? So you have mostly people of color losing their lives at a higher rate than anyone else. And the people who's making these decisions for us are not of our what they call that hue, not of our hue. That's a major problem for me because I believe that if it was others losing their lives at the rate that people of color are losing their lives, that this thing would have been shut down a long time ago. And like Cuomo say,
the facts. So just the facts.
Facts is the facts. The facts of the facts. If it was a whole other demographic being affected, this thing would have been shut down a long time ago. That's why, how can you actually measure human life with capitalism? Capitalism is in my opinion, is good sometime, but the way that this country uses capitalism is detrimental to all of us, especially if you're not a millionaire or billionaire. It's detrimental to all of us, and that needs to change. And then think about this right here. When you look at capitalism and you look at these billion-dollar companies, you got airlines, They talking about that they are broke. After 2 months in this pandemic, they are going broke. How can you be a $1 billion company and in 2 months you are broke? But at the same time, they expect the average man or woman, essential worker, to not be broke after one paycheck, when these CEO of these companies are making hundreds of millions of dollars a year, but they go 2 months without business. They need an economic bailout, but the government only want to bail us out for $1,200 in the form of a stimulus check. That's a smack in every worker face. And this is the negative effects of capitalism. You know, it's like when I used to hang out with my celebrity friends, people think that celebrities spend money. They don't spend a lot of money, especially when they go out to eat. Celebrities go out, and just because a certain celebrity patronized their establishment, they'll put the meal on the house. But the average man or woman that go into that restaurant, they got to pay full price. So it's the same thing when you're dealing with capitalism in America. America treat the people, the richest people in the country, better than they treat the poorest people. And we see that on all levels of life in America. And it's something that we must pay attention to. And I just want to let Cuomo know that there's no, you can't put a value on human life. You know, I understand that none of your family members was really affected by this. If your brother was really sick, which I doubt, he had a ventilator with his name on it already. He has access to the best doctors and healthcare that America has to buy. He has the space to actually social distance, not like people who live in public housing, who live in apartment buildings. He had the space to go inside a basement and live comfortably from his family for weeks at a time. These guys, I don't understand how they are getting away with this. I don't understand. Cuomo is looking like a rock star when New York State, and I'm going to keep saying this, if New York State was its own country, we will be number 6 in the world in coronavirus deaths. And we need to pay attention to that. Matter of fact, speaking of videos, I need you guys to watch this clip right here. Watch this clip. We need more like this man in this clip right here. Please watch it.
You know, he's doing a good job and he's showing leadership, you know, by speaking out about this pandemic and stuff. And that's all fine and good, but you know what? You can't outslick a can of oil, son. I know what you're about. See, because when it came to the response of my fellow co-workers and their safety, every time you was asked about it, you skirted the question. Had never been a response when it comes to the safety of the New York City transit workers. And then when they did respond, his answer was, God bless them, they know what they've got, they signed up for. Fuck you. What do you mean you know what we signed up for? We didn't sign up for this. There is nothing in a contract that said I signed up to die in a pandemic. Nothing.
Man, I have never seen a supervisor. First of all, that's dispatcher Lionel Willer. He did this documentary. I forget the name of the documentary, but it's an excellent documentary that dropped yesterday. Shot by someone, a photographer. I think he's from California, and it's an excellent documentary on the homeless in the subways. And for Mr. Wheeler, as a supervisor, to do the interview, to know of the issues, and to tell Cuomo, F you, that's very brave of him. We don't only need more men and women like Mr. Wheeler. We need more supervision also to step up to the plate like that. Because when supervision does it, it gives it a different type of voice. You know, because they could label us emergency responders, essential workers as being disgruntled. But when it comes to supervision, they get a different type of voice. And there's supervisors out there who's openly on Twitter speaking of the issue. Shout out to my brother Chase. But there's not many. There's not many. And it makes me question, what is the supervisors union doing as far as this? Why are you guys so quiet? You know, I see you guys on Facebook, but where are you guys during the media interviews? Where's the supervision fight to be in conjunction with Local 100? It seems like everyone is working separately. Anything that affects Local 100 affects SSSA during this pandemic. Just because you're a supervisor, the virus is not going to say, oh, that's a supervisor, let me go around them and go affect this hourly. It doesn't work like that. But shout out to, I want to play it one more time because it was that good. I want to play it one more time.
You know, he's doing a good job and he's showing leadership, you know, by speaking out about this pandemic and stuff. And that's all fine and good, but you know what? You can't outslick a can of oil, son. I know what you're about. See, because when it came to the response of my fellow co-workers and their safety, every time you was asked about it, you skirted the question. Had never been a response when it comes to the safety of the New York City transit workers. And then when they did respond, his answer was, God bless them, they know what they signed up for. Fuck you. What do you mean you know what we signed up for? We didn't sign up for this. There is nothing in a contract that said I signed up to die in a pandemic. Nothing.
Once again, shout out to Mr. Wheeler. Very brave of you. Hopefully we'll get to talk soon about what's going on in your end. And let's see what's up. Let's get into the next video, because they talking about all this cleaning going on and they bringing contractors on to the property to do this cleaning. Let's just get into the video, then we're going to discuss it because it's very important also.
Stations will be exit only. Here's what our cleaning operation will look like. On that Wednesday morning, we will surge the system with nearly 500 cleaners in terminals and yards during the overnight. It's important to remember this new essential cleaning and disinfecting operation is 24/7, not just overnight. Frequent touch points on subway cars and buses will be disinfected every 24 hours through 3 primary activities. First, there is daytime terminal car cleaning. After each train reaches its final destination, crews will remove trash, clean spills and biohazards, and spot clean floors, seats, and other surfaces. Disinfecting will also occur. This is something new. You will see more cleaners in our system throughout the day at the end-of-line stations.
Did anybody notice that she sounded like a robot reading that? Sounded real weird. But she said that the MTA is hiring 500 cleaners to do this special cleaning. So we're going to have 500 new people in the system doing this cleaning. Is anyone making sure that they didn't have the virus? They don't have the virus? Is anyone checking their temperatures? How do we know how these contractor companies treat their employees if they were sick? Do they treat their employees the same way the MTA treat their employees and try to get them to work by any means possible, no matter how sick they are? These people are going to be around us. Like I said, this virus is airborne. We could easily get reinfected or sick, just like how I covered earlier in the show with the new strain of this coronavirus. But who's testing these employees to make sure that they not coming here to infect us? You know, this thing happened too quick. There's no way possible they could test 500 workers that quick. I think that before any of these contractors come on the property, they must take a coronavirus test. They must take an antibody test, and they must be tested daily to make sure that they not infiltrating our system with this virus, because we're going to be working around them and things of that nature. So that's something to look into. And I would like to shout out my sister Trina Hayes for keeping me abreast as to what's going on in the field with these cleaners. Now, like I was saying, this virus is airborne too. And Cuomo basically says it in this video right here. And we need to pay attention. We must watch these press conferences, whether it's the MTA, whether it's Cuomo, whether it's de Blasio. We must watch these press conferences. Now, the only reason I don't really touch on de Blasio too much, and I have my gripes with de Blasio as far as policing and things of that nature, but de Blasio don't have no say in New York City Transit or the MTA. It's Governor Cuomo, it's Pat Foye, it's Sarah Feinberg, and for our defense, it's John Samuelson and Tony Utano. So I don't really do too much mentioning of de Blasio. I'm not saying that he's not guilty in any of this, because he is, but he doesn't control the MTA, and we must handle the people and not get sidetracked on the non-players. Foye, Feinberg, Samuelson, Utano, Cuomo are players. Let's get into this Cuomo video of him alluding to that this thing can be airborne.
That coronavirus, if it figures out a way to get in there, and all it takes is one person, one staff person who doesn't have a temperature, who's not symptomatic, one facility person, one person who comes to work on the air conditioning system, all it takes is one person to bring that virus in there. And you do everything you can, but at the same time, you can't do everything, right?
So listen to what Cuomo said. He said it takes one person who comes to work under the air conditioner system. Why is that? It takes one person to come to work under the air conditioner system to get everyone sick. And he was referring to the nursing homes. But the same thing applies to office buildings. The same thing applies to trains. The same thing applies to buses. If this virus wasn't airborne, then why would he mention one person to come to work sick up under the AC unit? Because the AC units circulate air. They have central units that recirculate the air throughout the building, throughout the facility, throughout the bus, the train, wherever the case may be where there's central air. This is an issue. This is an issue. So the virus is airborne, and we must protect ourselves at all times. You know, I find it strange. I got to speak to some conductors to ask them, how do you guys make announcements continuously on the train with the mask and all this, the shield on and things of that nature? How do you make announcements without taking off your mask? And do you feel comfortable? Because I don't think if I come to work, I'm going to make announcements, especially if my breathing is inhibited, because I'm still having breathing issues with this COVID thing, which is crazy. So, and it's nonsense for them to say that 14 days you're good, or you're not contagious after 72 hours without a fever. I'm still not feeling better. And I got to find out what's going on with my lungs, because certain parts of the day, I got to go for my pump numerous times during that part of the day. So something have to be done with that. Let me see. And then we have this picture right here, as far as with the TWU Local 100 members. Cuomo is the puppet master, and unfortunately, our union president is the puppet. He has not done anything to protect members. We have over 100, I think we closing in on 110 deaths on MTA workers. If you go on a union page right now, you will see a whole bunch of death on the page, And our union didn't do anything to protect us. They did something. They did the bare minimum. The bare minimum of what they should have done. I don't get it. They gave Cuomo $300,000 in campaign money just for Cuomo to veto Tier 6. But you only spend $10,000 on masks for your members? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Once again, the union gave Cuomo and his campaign over $300,000, but the union only spends less than $10,000 on masks for their own workforce to prevent us from dying. This union is doing the bare minimum. Tony Utano, he has to be the worst, if not the worst president ever of this local. The worst president. Has anyone seen him? Has he been on the front lines with us? How can they co-sign keeping the system running when he's not out here checking up on members himself to make sure that we good? We understand that he's in that bracket. He's older. He has underlying health conditions. Well, maybe this game isn't for you. Maybe it's not. You know, it's a shame to have union leadership who coddles up to a governor who continuously dropped the ball for transit workers. It's sad that we have to deal with weak union leadership at the top, because some stuff I can hold the division chairs accountable for. Some stuff I can hold the vice presidents of the divisions for. But for this whole debacle, for this pandemic, you have to look at the president for this. You can look at the vice presidents too, but you got to look at the president as to what they have done. And that's the president on both ends. The international president, that's the MTA president, the chief of the MTA. Everyone dropped the ball for transit workers and continue to drop the ball for transit workers. They continue to drop the ball for us transit workers. And for those who don't know, the cleaning, the suspension of service, overnight passenger service, it starts tomorrow. And the way it's going to work during this suspension is that trains are only going to be picking up MTA police, NYPD, and transit workers. And if you're a transit worker trying to get to work during that time on the train, you must be in the middle of the platform and you must have on your MTA vest. The whole train will not open up. Only the first car with the conductor can open the crew door. And the problem I have with that is, what if a police officer, because you know certain police officers feel they're above the law, they're above rules and regulations. What if they feel the need to not wear a mask? And then now, what if you pick up a whole bunch of essential workers, MTA, police, NYPD, transit workers, and they're in one car? How is social distancing is going to work for that conductor who's opening and closing the door? How can we enforce for a police officer to put on a mask to make sure that they not infecting anyone else during this closure of service during the overnight? If any conductor feel unsafe doing their job, I will put it over the radio. If any, if like I said, you feel unsafe during your job, call it in, refuse to work. We here for our safety. We are dying at astronomical numbers. This company do not care. And just for the record, the MTA said that they would be giving the families of the workers who died, the workers who died families, they $500,000 without delay. One of my friend's wife, he's been dead for 2 weeks. There have not been a phone call to his wife. There has not been a check delivered. There has not been anything by the MTA. So they are lying to the media about this. They are lying to the public. And that's why we have shows like this to tell our truth. It's very important that we tell our truth. Now, I got to put this up again because Once again, if you want to donate to the Progressive Action TV show, you could donate via Cash App, Progressive Action 100. We also have PayPal. You could donate via PayPal, Progressive Action. I have to do this while I got you guys' attention. Please donate to the movement. And if you want to become a subscriber, $25 a month to the movement, you could sign up via Patreon. That is in the link of the video. Now, I was going to do a show yesterday. And the reason I didn't do a show yesterday because I was hurt and I was sad, very sad. And maybe this is what's prolonging me getting better too. All this anxiety, all this death, this police brutality, worrying about family members and friends. I'm quite sure this is having some type of impact on my life. Yesterday I was very sad. One of my friends, a strong supporter of Progressive Action, Walter Jr. Watson, passed away. And it was unexpected for me. You know, Junior Watson, a great man. He took no shorts. He spoke his mind. And he was just an all-around great individual. He just had a baby. He had a son. Son is 18 months. He was happily married. He spoke about his wife all the time to me. And to get the news that he passed away, I ain't gonna lie, it hurt me a lot. And I didn't have a chance to mourn for any of my friends and family members' deaths due to this whole pandemic, or even if they lost their life without the pandemic. It's just hard to deal and cope with death. So I decided to put together a little tribute to him. Like I said, man, it was hard. I was gonna do the show yesterday, and just looking at his pictures, it would have been very hard for me to do the show the way I did it. But we go get to the tribute right now, and I'll be right back. R.I.P. to my brother Junior Watson, man. It's crazy out here. I mean, I look at one of those pictures and laugh because he was the first one to bootleg a Progressive Action shirt, uh, hoodie actually, and he had got it done. And he said, "Yo, Tramel, man, I hope you ain't gonna be mad at me, but I got my own hoodie pressed up of Progressive Action." But I love the dude so much. I was like, man, I ain't worrying about that. I ain't tripping off of that, man. You family, you home team. And whenever they had a what they call that, a shop gate at the depot, he would hit me up and say, "Yo, Tramel, I wore the hoodie, man. They know not to say nothing to me," and things of that nature, because he was very passionate about the issues that went on with us. And if you go on his page, his name on Facebook is Lil Bruh Holland. If you go on his page, you would see he was a supporter of Progressive Action. He cared about the issues. He cared about the fight and, things of that nature. R.I.P. to my brother, Junior Watson. My condolences to his family, his wife, his 18-month-old son, his sister, his family members, man, his friends, his coworkers whom he worked with every day. Everyone could echo those same things about Junior Watson, man. But R.I.P. to him. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.